Hello everybody and welcome to my Resto Shaman guide for the Legion Beta. Resto Shaman right now is the cooldown powerhouse. It's probably going to be the one and only mandatory class for all raids. And that's purely just because of this talent here, the 10% increased HP when you cast pretty much any heal on them. That and just the amount of utility Shaman is providing. They're definitely looking to be one of the strongest, if not the strongest healer in Legion, and it's definitely going to be the one class everybody needs to bring, every raid group needs to bring. So the general gameplay for Shaman hasn't changed too much. It's just we've acquired this Cloudburst totem now because it's not on the same tier of talents as High Tide, which it's a very strong talent. It's very can be played around with and abused and does very well in raids. So we'll get straight into the talents. So for the tier 15, you have Mutilation. Every third cast of Healing Wave or Healing Surge heals for an additional 50%. So both Healing Wave and Healing Surge do the same amount of healing. So you don't really get a choice between the two here. Oh, there's no better one to cast, but they do get empowered. This is the general pickup for Mythic Boss Dungeons, just a general throughput increase. You have Unleashed Life, so it's the same as it used to be, or as it is. So you instant cast heal a target for a small amount, and then your next direct heal does 30% of it. This is quite a mana efficient spell. The only problem with it is that Shaman already has a lot of setup time, with your Cloudburst totem, with your Healing Rain, your other totems and stuff. So you don't really have space for another spell to be setting up, a chain heal or something like that, or a big healing surge or something. There's nothing wrong with this talent. It's just not better than the other two. And then you have Torrent. Torrent's the general pickup for raids. So Torrent just increases the initial heal of Riptide. So the initial heal of Riptide is fairly large with this now. 92k as compared to the Healing Surge, which is 125k. So it is a very good instant single target heal. And it's only on a 6-second cooldown. And obviously the Hot is as good as the initial cast heal. So you want to be Riptiding off cooldown generally. So Torrent, it's very nice to pick up in raids, very mana efficient. You're fine with going with Mutilation in raids. The only problem is consistency. Consistency is a big thing for healers, and what you're gonna try, you're gonna be casting just Healing Wave quite a bit, and having that 50% increase is likely just to be overhealing. So that's just sort of why Torrent is the general go-to, because you are using Riptide on cooldown. Because as everyone should know, Riptide does give you the Tidal Waves buff. So next up is the tier 30. These are all movement speed ones. So Gust of Wind just pushes you forward. It's pretty much just like the Hunter Disengage, but forward. Graceful Spirit. So this just reduces the cooldown on your Spirit Walker's Grace by 60 seconds. So that's half the cooldown. Gives you a small movement speed increase while you're in Spirit Walker's Grace, and gives your Ghost Wolf an additional 10% run speed. So this talent is crazy. This one is very good. The only thing with taking this is that you're missing out on now probably the best ever run speed you can give to your raid in the game. It's a lot better than Stampeding Roar, Windrush Totem. So Windrush Totem is the new Stampeding Roar basically. So you just place the totem on the ground. It lasts for 15 seconds, and anybody who runs through it gets the run speed while they're in it, and then a 5-second buff after they exit it. So you can run through it multiple times. It's a crazy cooldown. So it's really just going to come down to if there's enough movement in the fight to warrant running Windrush over Graceful Spirit. Obviously you can have a fairly large uptime on Spirit Walker's Grace. if you want to take the Graceful Spirit talent. One thing you do have to note about it, it does have a mana cost, and the mana cost is about, 1.5 healing waves to cast that spell. And as anyone who's played on the beta at the moment, or even the pre-patch, mana is a big deal now, and there are no trinkets or talents or anything kind of to get you more mana back. Well, there is talents, but mana is hard to come by. So that is one thing to keep in mind. But generally, Graceful Spirit I've been sticking with majority of the time, just because the 60-second cooldown is a lot to pass up. But Windrush Totem, don't be scared of taking this. Be that hero that we all need. Take Windrush Totem if you need to. So 245. Lightning Surge is probably default for most people. Has a lower charge up time now, it's only 2 seconds, and then stuns everyone for 5 seconds. So it's almost as good as a leg sweep. Hasn't really changed. Then you have Earth Grab Totem. This has been nerfed. Doesn't reroute them, it just slows them, and the route isn't for as long. Still good if you need to be kiting some things in raids. There might be some raid bosses which require things like Earth Grab Totem and Mass Grip, like we saw in Blackrock Foundry. But yeah, just some utility. This whole tier is utility, and then Voodoo Totem. This replaces Hex, so just keep in mind about that, and will just incapacitate every target within 8 yards of the totem. So just utility. Lightning Surge is generally the pickup for most scenarios. It's the general default you want to be running with. Okay, so level 60. So this is the rest of the talents here where it starts getting interesting. So level 60 of Crashing Waves. So your Riptide now gains 2 charges of Tidal Waves. So this is just a passive. You might want to be taking this for your Mythic dungeons. So reduces the cast time of both your of Healing Wave. It's the same thing it's always done, but 2 charges now. So in a 5-man dungeon where you're not going to be casting Chain Heal as much, you're not going to be getting as many procs of Healing Tide as you normally would in a raid, and you're just going to be spamming out those Healing Waves and Healing Surges. These 2 charges can be a lifesaver. It is a passive effect. A lot of people who haven't really played Shaman for a long time don't really notice the tidal waves. It's kind of just there passively, but it is a pretty nice HPS throughput. The other talent here, Ancestral Guidance. This is another talent. I mean, you can consider taking this in raids, but it's mostly going to be used in five men's. Your Mythic Plus dungeons. So it does exactly what it always is. It's a 60% HPS increase for 10 seconds on a 2-minute cooldown, and it's just an AoE heal. So this is nice if you want to heal up the rest of your party members while you spam healing your tank and your Mythic Pluses. I usually take Ancestral Guidance. I prefer the cooldown sort of style of Shaman rather than the passives, but that's just preference. I mean, pure throughput wise, I'm sure someone's going to figure out what's better, but Ancestral Guidance is the situational spell, which is nice. And then Deluge. So Deluge it's a nice passive for raids. So when you're in a raid, you're generally going to be having healing rain down the entire time. So your Chain Heal is going to be doing 20% more to anyone inside the healing rain and with Riptide. So this is just a nice passive. This is generally going to be giving you more heals than Ancestral Guidance in a raid scenario. So Deluge is generally the pickup for raids. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people who are going to be taking Ancestral Guidance and Crashing Waves, maybe just because there is no stacking, or there is no chain healing or something going on a raid. That's fine. That's what talents are for. So tier 75. So these are the new ones. There's really one default, Ancestral Vigor. So increases everyone's health by 10% for 10 seconds for anyone you heal. So you can pretty much keep this up on a lot of people. You're going to be always keeping this up on the tanks. 10% is a lot. So with the amount of HP people have too, 10% usually is like 200k. 200k is two healing waves worth of healing. And when you're in raid gear, so it's a lot of HP increase, and it's a big barrier for boss abilities, which are just going to be, you know, hitting you down. It kind of gives you that, you know, extra 2 or 3 seconds you're going to need to heal people up so they don't die. And that's just something, you know, people it's a different gameplay in Legion, where people have a lot more HP. You know, healing's a lot slower, so this extra, you know, buffer is what actually makes Shaman just what I think is going to be a mandatory healing slot. You know, even maybe 2, just to make sure everyone has this buff. But yeah, so we'll get into the other ones. So you have Earthen Shield Totem. So this just summons a totem that is essentially just like a raid-wide absorb. It's a lot of healing. It's just, can you afford to take that and replace Ancestral Vigor? I haven't actually played with this one in Mythic Plus Dungeons yet. It could be alright, but I mean, you have to weigh up the 10%. Is this enough to, you know, this is essentially someone's HP bar every minute. It could be good. I haven't actually played around with Earthen Shield Totem. I've kind of just stuck with this, but that could be something that is good in the Mythic Pluses. And then Ancestral Protection Totem. This is a very cool totem. This doesn't count towards a battle res, so basically anyone dies within this totem, you can, you know, res them. They get a chance to reincarnate. That does absorb the totem when you do it. So inside the totem you get 10% increased HP. So it is essentially your passive in the area for 30 seconds. So I'm sure this is going to be used on a lot of bosses just to, you know, do exactly what happened in Archimonde, where, you know, a tank might die on mechanic to completely ignore it or something. Or, you know, Manaroth, where people have the debuffs and you just die, the debuffs will go away and then they get B-res back up. So I'm sure this totem's going to have plenty of uses in a raid scenario. I'm sure it's going to be very much abused, but, you know, that's just another reason to bring a Shaman. Just, they have crazy utility. So, sorry. Next up on the tier 90, there is Resurgence. So Resurgence is the mana you get back from crits. So critical heals will gain you a different amount of mana depending on what heal it is. So that 0.25% there for chain heal, that does count for every hit of chain heal. Every of the 4 or 5 hits, depending on what talents you have. So this Bottomless Depths, this will be a lot of mana back based on you know, how many targets are low. So obviously if it's going to be, you know, a 10-minute fight, you're going to be running even mana, everyone's going to be low HP the entire time. You know, we could see like another Imperator Margot kind of scenario. Bottomless Depths is going to be very good there. So Cloudburst Totem is the standard pickup for most scenarios, especially in raids. So what Cloudburst Totem is for 15 seconds, it's going to be basically duplicating all your healing into a totem. So that works with Healing Tide Totem, that works with all your healing. And then then when it expires, it's going to do a burst of healing. So if we just spam Healing Surge on me right now, we'll see that I'm getting healed with Healing Surge. Then we expire the totem whenever we want. That doesn't actually show that I got healed. But anyway, it explodes for 25% of the healing you do. So this can be used, you know, in basically to increase the healing done of Healing Tide or any healing cooldown you're having by 25%, and then after it you can exploit it and do that healing. So the healing done is divided evenly among targets, and the targets that it does target are people who have taken damage. So it should be mostly effective healing. You know, unlike Healing Tide where it just heals everybody, this one does target people. So this has the potential to do a lot of healing. This does end up being, when you usually use it in raids, about 6 to 7% of your healing, possibly more if it's a heavy raid fight. You know, that's fairly significant considering it's 25% and it's on a, you know, 50% uptime. So, you know, it works out to be, you know, 25%ish, and off an average you're getting about 7 to 8% back, or whatever I said. I think I said 6 to 7. It's you know, it's fairly good. It's a nice increase. So it's the general pickup. It's been around in WOD, but no one really took it. It's it's a good spell. It's a good increase. What it does do, it does give you quite a bit of a setup time if you want to be effective healing with chain healing, because you got to get down your healing rain and then your totem, and then you can start chain healing. But that's alright. I mean, that's not a problem for anyone, for a good healer. Preemptive healing is just something you'll get used to, and as you learn the fights, it's not going to really be a problem. So the next up we have Echo of Elements. So this just gives you 2 charges on a few of your abilities: Riptide, Healing Tide Totem, and Lava Burst. And then in addition, you have a 10% chance not to consume tidal waves. So the Echo really falls off in comparison to the other 2 talents, because you don't have double Spirit Link anymore. There's not really much of a reason to be taking Echo over either of these 2, unless you're in a 5-man dungeon. Even in a 5-man, Cloudburst is something you have to consider dropping. The 2 charges on the Healing Stream Totems and the Riptide is nice. If you fall behind, and the extra damage you get from having the 2 Lava Bursts, you don't waste the procs from the Lava Surges when you take Echo. But it's just something you're gonna have to play around with if you want to take Echo. It's really only gonna be taken in 5-mans. It's fine to take in 5-mans. I've been playing a lot with it in 5-mans just because it's nice to have those double Lava Bursts at the start of a fight, and when there's not really much damage going on in a fight. But the 10% to not consume tidal waves is kind of not enough to make it warrant losing the double Spirit Link. So Cloudburst is the general pickup. I would recommend that for most people, especially if you know how to use it properly. It can be very well paired with a lot of your cooldowns. And then the tier 100. So sadly for raids, there's only really one pickup, and that's High Tide. So 1 extra target's reduced by half. So this works out to be like a 40% increase on your chain heal, which is pretty crazy. So it's exactly the same as what it has done. So your chain heal now reduces by 15% each time. So it's a good spell, good talent. It's nice to pick up. It's a nice passive. You don't have to think about it. Next we have Wellspring Totem. So you just cast Wellspring Totem. Is just a totem you put down. It casts, has a little animation. It basically just spreads out and heals people. It's right. It's a very high mana cost. It's higher than Chain Heal. It does do a lot of healing. Not something to snark at. It could be viable. It just depends on the situation. You're probably going to be getting more throughput out of High Tide and Deluge than you would be taking Wellspring Totem and something like Ancestral Guidance. But it is preference. High Tide and just Deluge is pretty much the way to go, though, especially because you are going to be getting mana back on your Chain Heal, so it isn't that ineffective to be casting Chain Heal. So if you do spec into them, and because then if you do take Wellspring Totem, you're kind of gimped for your AoE healing. You don't really have the AoE healing you would otherwise. If maybe if there's one ability that comes every 20 seconds and you can Wellspring Totem that ability every 20 seconds, it might be an efficient way of healing. But even if targets are spread out, I guess Wellspring might be okay. Just High Tide and Deluge have very good synergy and just go too well together to kind of warrant taking much else in a raid. And then finally Ascendance. Ascendance is exactly the same as what it did before, where basically whatever you just healed gets duplicated among everybody else. This does work with Cloudburst Totem. This is the default. This is what you take in your Mythic Plus dungeons, because you don't need to be chain healing too much, and just the passive healing is nice. Ascendance just really doesn't do enough. It's not a smart heal. It's just kind of you get a little sloppy heal for everybody else in your raid. 1/20th or whatever of what you just healed. So it's not a lot. 6k when you do a healing surge to everyone in your raid when they have 1.4 million HP. So yeah, Ascendance is alright. Like you can pair it with other things, but it's just not the best. And Ascendance doesn't work with Ancestral Guidance, like the increased healing. So that synergy isn't there. Um, but yeah, so generally the setup you want to be taking for raids is what you see here, and then for mythic 5-mans, mythic plus dungeons, you'll generally be either going with utilation, graceful spirit, ancestral guidance, ancestral vigor, and ascendance. That's generally what I've been taking. If it's generally easier, if it's kind of like some easy content, you can take echo. But what you'll find with Cloudburst as well in your 5-mans is that pretty much it's gonna be like a emergency save healing, save for your tank. So if everyone else in your party is full healed and you Cloudburst totem, your tank's gonna be receiving all of that healing, and it's kind of like it's almost like a spirit link, I guess. So it is. If you play with it well, Cloudburst can really carry you through your 5-man mythic plus dungeons. But that's it depends to how you use it, and how you can use it, what you're limited to. Alright, so next we'll be going through the artifacts talents. So the artifact talents, sadly all these gold dragons ones, all the elite talents are all pretty average. So there's two kind of ways of thinking, whether you want to be going around to the right first and getting this Queen's Decree up here. So Queen's Decree just makes your healing stream totem just give everybody a small hot for 6 seconds. So to give you an idea, so healing stream totem does 16k healing. So this basically it pretty much more than doubles the healing of your healing stream totem in a raid. If your healing stream totem is going to be healing everybody, it does do a lot of healing. In a raid scenario, in a 5-man, not so much. But it's not the greatest smut heal, and it's not really a lot of healing anyway. So even if it does double the healing of Healing Tide Totem, Healing Tide Totem really just doesn't do a lot. So Queen's Decree is generally what most people are going to be picking up first. You want to be coming around here and just straight up through these three. So all these are pretty average except for this one's here. So this one actually makes crit a very nice pickup for Resto Shaman now, even though crit isn't the best stat for a healer. And that's just because generally when you're critical healing someone, there's going to be overhealing, and it's not something you really want to be doing. Constant healing is constant, and then healing you can anticipate is always the way you want to be going for a healer. So crit isn't the most attractive stat, but we'll explain it later. But there's a whole lot of crit synergy. So crit's probably going to be the thing you're going to be stacking as a shaman. So when you crit, you get the cast time of your next heal is reduced by 15%. So that's essentially 15% of your crit is now going to be equivalent to haste. So that's very good. So you want to be coming up here, getting your Queen's Decree, coming through the middle here, going up, getting our 7 of the Queen. Just basically makes it when you reincarnate, you're not going to die to fire straight away. Your 10% increased critical strike chance on Chain Heal. This is probably one of the better ones. This is the one you're going to be wanting to get all your artifacts relics into, either this one here, or the Queen's Ascendance, or even the Tidal Chains. But yeah, so up here, and then you want to be getting the sorry, I can never say this word, but commutative upkeep. So your healing tide totem just now increases the healing it does, stacking up to 7 times. So it does do a fairly nice amount of increased healing on your healing tide totem. It's not amazing, it's only one spell. Healing tide totem is still a very good cooldown. This just makes it better. It's not amazing, and for some reason it's not as good as Sense of Urgency. Now this is, I would say, probably the best 1 point non-anti gold dragon I've seen in all the artifact weapons. Increases all your healing during Bloodlust by 25%. So during Bloodlust you have 30% increased haste, 25% increased healing on top of that. Some nice multiplicative scaling. You're going to be doing a lot. So Bloodlust, Shaman solo heal, all your other healers can go DPS. No one's going to be as efficient as you during Bloodlust. So that's another reason your shaman's going to be crazy good, because heroism's not really going to be popped on pull anymore, just because of the change to RPPM. So you're not going to be getting as much damage as you would popping hero at the start of a fight. So it's not going to be mandatory to pop hero at the start of a fight. So you're generally going to be popping hero during the hardest bits of a fight, when there's also the most healing. So that's when your shaman's really going to shine through. And for anyone who knows how to use Warcraft logs, and you can see the parts of the fight where your shaman might be like the lowest healer, but they're going to be the ones coming on top. For the parts in the fight where healing really matters, where throughput's actually a thing. And that this is just going to compound that and secure the shaman raid spot even more. So another interesting talent they have is the refreshing currents. So increases the mana reseal from your critical heals from the resurgence by 50%. So this increases the resurgence from 0.25% of your mana back to 0.3725 or something. Sorry, math in my head, probably not correct. But yeah, so this is another good one to pick up. So my general thinking at the moment is actually up through the middle, get the sense of urgency. I really like this spell. I think this is going to be really fun to play with. So get up there, so get the sense of urgency, and then get the communicative upkeep, and then we'll get the Queen's Decree, and then I'll work my way up this way through tidal chains. So this one just increases the effect of your tidal waves by 30%, so that's why you see the off numbers there, so the 39, that's the 30% increase, and then obviously the crit increase as well. So this is one of the better ones too. This is nice to get. This is what you want to be getting after you get your 3 gold dragons and your sense of urgency. And then up through here, increase healing on Riptide. This is a nice pickup. So this is healing rain, increased healing by 6%, and the critical strike chance by 6%. There's no crit synergy on healing rain, but that's a nice pickup too. All the actual the artifact weapon is actually a pretty big part of Shaman. It is a lot more significant than some of the other healers. It's just a pity that the golden dragons at the end aren't too good. And so the last gold dragon you'll be picking up is the tidal pools, which just makes your Riptide summon a totem which just does AoE healing. So just why these might seem okay, like they all kind of are okay, but both of these end up being 2 to 3% of your healing, which is it's a sizable increase, but it's not a lot. So they're not too amazing to get. And then your actual artifact ability, which I missed, is just essentially like a it's pretty much like the Holy Priest AoE heal. It's just a cast time, heal everybody in there for a large amount, doesn't have a mana cost, and it gives them 10% increased HP. It's not the most amazing thing. It's not really a bad thing. It's just an AoE heal. It's just kind of a it's like a prerequisite to chain heal, I guess. You just be casting it before chain heal and then chain healing for your life. So with the shaman right now, you have your healing wave, so you can actually cast healing wave constantly. It's a mana neutral spell to be casting, so we're not going to be dropping mana, just casting healing wave. And then also, as soon as you get a crit back with healing wave, you're just going to be getting whatever mana you've lost back. So that's kind of interesting to note. You can be at the end of a fight, no mana, and you're going to be the only healer there sitting going, yeah, I can spam this spell and I can probably regain mana while doing it. So stats wise, so there's always the 2 types of shamans, well I guess 3 types of shamans now. So there's always going to be your mastery stacking shamans. So mastery obviously will scale better than all your other stats. So for anyone who doesn't know, mastery increases the healing you do on somebody by a certain amount depending on what HP they're at. So if they're at lower HP, if they're at no HP, you're going to be doing 40% increased healing on them. So why Shaman has been so good for a very long time is just because of this mastery, just because they are better at healing harder fights. They get better at healing as the fight gets harder, So Shaman will always have, well not always have, but they gain value as the fight gets harder, whereas no other healing class can do that. Um, it's a really big, throughput increase having high mastery. The one problem you know you do have stacking mastery is obviously you're going to be really slow at reacting to people on low HP, with low amounts of haste. But honestly, like your cast times, they're long, but if you know damage is coming and you can preempt stuff, cast times aren't really gonna stop you from healing people. So you have your haste shamans. Haste isn't going to be the most attractive thing. Haste was always pretty attractive for shaman just because you can increase your such long cast times. So having haste is just kind of like, oh yeah, I can cast faster. It's nicer. It can be more reactive. I can pad the healing. It's never really a throughput healing increase over mastery. People kind of just take haste now and Warlords of Draenor just because it's the heal, people's HP falls so quick and they rise so quick. One spell you can top somebody with, so haste is kind of an attractive option there. But in Legion, the more spells the more weaker spells you're casting, taking haste, the more money you're going to be using for less efficient heals. So haste isn't going to be very good. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people telling you to go haste because it's such a long cast time, but it's just not going to work out in the long run. And then there's crit. So crit has a lot of synergy with a lot of things in the shaman spec. So crit's essentially going to be giving you 15% haste for the value of your crit. So you can essentially view this crit now as 10% crit and an additional 1.5% haste. So it's always nice. Crit, I'm probably going to prioritize it after mastery, just because of the way the healing does work. So everyone is gonna have more HP. So crit healing somebody, chances are it's probably not gonna overheal them, but chances are it will, and you're probably just gonna get more out of having a lot more mastery. End of the day, you're it's not really gonna make too much of a difference. You're talking like very minimal, but mastery is just generally gonna be the thing most people are gonna wanna go for. And then versatility, as everyone is aware, scales 30% worse than your other stats. So try and avoid mastery where you can. So little look into the legendaries. So the hands, increases the duration of all your totems by 20%. This is one of the weaker ones. It's alright, it's not bad if you get it, congratulations. The thing with most of these legendaries is you're pretty much like, you're gonna be, if you get one, you're gonna be over the moon. You have a legendary, woohoo. Chances of you getting two is very low. Very low when you're getting one, in fact, so be happy if you get any legendaries. So again, none of them are too game breaking, but they're all still kind of nice. So equip reduces the mana cost of your next healing surge by 30% after you chain heal. It's alright, I mean, cool. 30% reduced healing on one spell after you use an inefficient spell. You're not going to be using chain heal as much as you do, just because of the fight times and because of your mana. So it's alright, it's not the best. So Riptide has a chance. Riptide resets the cooldown on Riptide. Basically, yeah, when you heal someone below 40% HP. That didn't sound right when I said it, but it is correct. So the thing with this is that Riptide doesn't heal as much as a healing surge. So your healing surge is the same as your global. So this is only really it's nice in a raid. If you're going to be just topping, you can just literally just go through and healing tide everyone who's on low HP. That's when this one's going to become a very good spell. But for a 5-man, it's alright. I mean, it's not as good as these boots. So it's good. I don't really have much more to say about it. But the boots are insane. So your healing rain increases the healing you do to targets in your healing rain by 10%. So generally, as a shaman, you're going to be healing people in your healing rain. You're going to be healing stacked up targets with your chain heal because that's where you're most efficient. And now you're doing 10% increased healing on all those targets. Very good. If you get these ones, congratulations. You got the best legendary of them all. And then this is, I would say, the second best one. So your Healing Wave and Healing Surge increase the healing of your next gen heal by 20%. So, because of just how much you're going to be casting Healing Wave, when you do cast Chain Heal, it's going to be 100% increase. It's going to be a huge Chain Heal. So this finger is definitely as good or maybe better, just depending on the situation, as the boots. So my general thoughts on Shaman, as I said at the start, is that I reckon it's the strongest healer. That's my opinion. I'm sure plenty of people are going to have their opinions about the classes they've played, but of all the healers I've played so far, Shaman just has the most utility. It still, I would say, has the best mastery, just because of its, as the fight gets harder, it's, Shaman's going to shine through. A good Shaman on your logs will be healing the most in situations where there's a lot of damage, and that's purely just because they do have access to the cooldowns, they do have access to their mastery. They do bring the best raid cooldown in the game, Spirit Link Totem, and they do have that nice healing increase now as well through Bloodlust, and the damage is pretty good. You're essentially an Ellie Shaman if you want to be. There's the only thing you don't have on an Ellie Shaman is the passes and the Earth Shock, and that's literally it. So you can bring a lot of damage. You can sit there and Lightning Bolt doesn't have a mana cost. It hits fairly hard. And the ancestral vigor as well is what I think will make Shaman just mandatory in every raid. It's essentially a commanding shout without a cooldown, which is crazy. But anyway, so that's my thoughts on the Resto Shaman. That's my little Legion beta guide. I hope you enjoyed, and thanks for watching.